Hi, I'm Scott Wrighton. I serve as Decatur City Manager, and every week we give you some more information about what's happening with the projects, the programs, and the initiatives of the City of Decatur. It's my pleasure to do that. This week I'm going to talk primarily about two things: street improvements that you can expect to see around the City of Decatur this coming construction season here in 2022, and the topics that'll be on the City Council's upcoming study session later this month in June. So, to the uninformed observer, one asphalt project looks like another asphalt project, maybe. But for those of us working for city government, they sort of fall into three categories: projects that are managed as a result of federal funding, which operates under a different set of rules; state projects, usually initiated and managed by the Illinois Department of Transportation; and then third, those projects that are funded by the City of Decatur, managed by the City of Decatur, and are usually off the system routes, meaning they aren't a part of the numerous state highways that go through the City of Decatur. So I want to mention some of them. In fact, some of them have been in the news, but I'm going to start with some of our local projects. There's a website for the City of Decatur and a link there that tells you a little bit about some of the CIP, Capital Improvement Plan programs that we're undertaking under the city's management with city funding and motor fuel tax funding this year. One of the areas that we've received several comments about and questions about is in the South Shores area. The City of Decatur has initiated this year several water line replacement projects in several residential neighborhoods that have disrupted the streets because the water lines that we're replacing are underneath the paved surfaces. And the most frequent question is, okay, that's fine, I appreciate the improvement in the water service, but is the street going to get repaved over the trench work that was done for that water improvement? And the answer is yes, and it'll happen this year. We're still waiting for the base to settle so we have just the right conditions, but all of that water work that took place and is finishing up in the South Shores areas will have final surface paving this year. The Illinois Department of Transportation is undertaking several projects this year that I want to highlight in the City of Decatur, and two of them are on Highway 51, Business 51. The first one has already started, at least there's evidence of it, because they're putting the orange barrels out on 51 north of Pershing, not south of Pershing, but north of Pershing all the way to the Interstate 72 interchange. This project is what we call a mill and fill. They're going to mill the existing surface and then put a new asphalt layer over the top. They're going to make some improvements to curbs and gutters, as well as a few handicapped accessible ramps. And there's a section of the center median concrete that is completely deteriorated and is going to be replaced as a part of that project. So that's an upgrade that isn't so significant that it's going to span more than one construction season. We expect that to be finished by the end of the 2022 construction season. On the other end of 51, from Cleveland Street, which is a local street just north of the dam, then from that, sort of by the Waits Dry Cleaners there on South 51, from that point south all the way to Elwyn, past the southern city limits, that project, that surfacing of Business Route 51 will also be happening this year. There's sections of that closer to the South Shores commercial area that any regular drivers of that area know needs to be resurfaced, and so that'll be undertaken by the Department of Transportation this year as well. A project that the Department of Transportation planned to do in 2020 but got delayed until this year is a section of US 36 west of the Central Business District, beginning at Church Street and then continuing all the way west to Fairview. Also a mill and fill where they're going to mill up the existing surface down a couple of inches and put in new asphalt overlay, change several curb and gutter sections and handicap ramps, not that dissimilar from the section of 51 north of Pershing. That project was delayed 2 years because of right-of-way acquisition problems. The right-of-ways are fairly tight in there, and so the Department of Transportation and the City of Decatur had to acquire additional right-of-way, and that took a lot of time. Of course, this last year saw the improvement, a lot of asphalt on 36 from 5 Points out across the lake and all the way down to just before the intersection at Airport Road and Mount Zion Road. Some people thought, well, why is it that we stop when that intersection at Mount Zion Road and US 36 needs a lot of improvement? And the answer to that question is that those projects were parceled into a separate project, and the state this year will be working on 121 through that intersection south all the way through the village of Mount Zion, and then on 36 they're going to begin again at that intersection and go all the way to Illinois 32, well west of the city of Decatur. But why that's relevant for the city of Decatur is that it improves those areas that were not improved in that general area of the intersection of Airport Road, Mount Zion Road, and US 36 there on the east side of the city. Finally, the state is also undertaking an improvement to the Williams Street Bridge over Lake Decatur. The basic structure stays in place, but they're putting a new bridge deck on, and there'll be modernized lighting across the bridge as well, which the city is participating with the Department of Transportation to improve. So the major missing piece in all of that, and probably the section of state highway that is most in need of repair, is one that I've not mentioned, which is Business 51 between Eldorado and Pershing. I've had the opportunity to update citizens a little bit about this in the past. The state had originally planned to make that just a simple mill and fill, just like some of the other projects that I mentioned. But back in 2019, the city council said, basically, time out. We don't think that's the appropriate design approach for that section of highway. Because of the rerouting of trucks out of downtown, because of other changes in traffic patterns with trucks and vehicles, the amount of vehicles on those sections of North Water Street and South Main and North Main Street, the road doesn't need to be as wide as it has been made to. And so it's going to undergo what's called a road diet, that's a term that DOT uses, to basically make it 3 lanes throughout that section, which will mean that we acquire additional space for green space, for an improved pedestrian corridor. In fact, one of those lanes will have a dedicated and separate hike-bike trail, lighting, and other green space improvements, which, besides the fact that it'll make it look better and will improve transportation in that section of the city, but it will also significantly complement the city council's ongoing efforts to do neighborhood revitalization. Everybody knows that that section of Business 51 goes through a distressed neighborhood and an area of our urban core, but it's a key area. And the city council is not only desirous of making sure that transportation improvements can somehow have a positive effect on the adjoining properties, but also that the general appearance of Decatur going through that area is enhanced. And that's why we insisted on design changes. I have to tell you that the Department of Transportation was not initially receptive, and they frankly fought the city on these design changes for some time. They have come around, and the design is proceeding now. But the fact that we had to engage the state to totally change their thinking about how to design and improve this in a way that really complements what the mayor and city council want to do with their revitalization, making non-vehicular traffic more accommodated in there, which it isn't right now, and improve the whole streetscape of the area, has added at least 1.5 years to the project. And so it's going to be some time yet before the final reconstruction begins. As a result of that, we are negotiating now with the Department of Transportation so that they can make temporary, as in 1 to 2 year improvements to the surface of it, because especially southbound 51, you all know this, is that the surface has deteriorated to the point that it's even unsafe in some locations. And if it's going to be another year or so before the final project, the final fix, can be achieved, then we realize, and hopefully DOT can realize as well, that the surface needs temporary improvement so that it's more drivable. So that's the update on some of our transportation projects. Finally, I want to talk a little bit about the next study session of the City Council that's coming up on Monday the 13th. We don't have study sessions every single month, but several times a year we do have study sessions. And a study session is an opportunity where for the City Council to sort of, well, figuratively, if not literally, roll up their sleeves and dive more into the details of projects and programs and maybe policy initiatives that they'll take action on at a later time. The City Council takes no formal votes at study sessions. They just study matters that will likely be actions that they take at a future time once staff takes the feedback that we get from the mayor and council and puts it into formal proposals. The 2 items that are on the study session agenda for Monday, one has to do with the Decatur Civic Center. That's the building where most of the Decatur municipal offices are located downtown and have been for nearly 42 years since the building was finished in 1980. While the building is in good shape, but it's been maintained properly, it's becoming functionally obsolete, and the uses of it are decreasing. And so as a result of that, it's financially not as secure as it once was. There's still a lot of programs here at the Civic Center, and they're picking it back up again as we move further and further away from the pandemic. but making sure that we have better utilization of this facility for the next generation is something the City Council is going to talk about. They commissioned an independent consultant's report, somebody who specializes in doing sort of a highest and best use of exactly these kinds of facilities. And so they'll be discussing some of the consultant's recommendations and a way forward to bring more people to this facility and to this part of the downtown area. Finally, the second item on the study session agenda is a continuation of the council's ongoing discussions about its number one priority, neighborhood revitalization. They're going to be talking about something that they call a Great Streets Initiative. City Council at its April study session selected Jasper Street, all the way from Lakeshore Drive in the south to Pershing in the north, as the subject of a corridor study where we would not just evaluate infrastructure improvements to the street, but also what the best ways to drive economic development, reinvestment in key properties along that corridor, so that in that way we can engage community development corporations and neighborhood groups to be partners in all of this, and bring the data necessary to attract developers into some of these properties, so that from a corridor standpoint and a business development standpoint, it really adds value to the neighborhood revitalization project. So the council will be acting at a later time formally on a consultant agreement, but more of a deep dive discussion into how that corridor study would work is the second item on the agenda. City Council meetings as well as study sessions are open to the public, and each of them have an opportunity for people who can come and speak to the City Council, and you're welcome to do that here on the third floor of the Civic Center in the City Council chambers. Sorry this got a little long today, but thank you very much for tuning in and learning a little bit more about your city, and I look forward to sharing with you some more next week.